Welcome to Echoes of the Temple, a space where we re-examine Scripture in the light of justice, humility, and the Spirit's prompting. I'm your host, and today we begin a two-part series that blends ancient horror with modern heartache. The title? Choosing the Bear. If you've spent any time online, you may have seen the phrase, "I'd rather be alone in the woods with a bear than with a man I don't trust." It's more than a meme. It's a cry from deep within the experience of many women. What at first feels absurd quickly reveals itself as devastatingly honest. Because a bear might kill you, but it won't choose to violate you. This cultural moment echoes a pair of chilling biblical stories, Genesis 19 and Judges 19. Today, we turn to the latter. Judges 19 is a story most pastors avoid, and with good reason. A Levite retrieves his concubine from her father's house. On their way home, they stay overnight in Gebeah, a town in the tribal territory of Benjamin. There, a mob of men surrounds the house, demanding the Levite be handed over. The host, like Lot before him in Sodom, refuses but instead offers his virgin daughter and the Levite's concubine. Eventually, the concubine is thrown outside. All night, she is raped and abused. At dawn, she collapses at the doorstep. And when her master finds her there, he says nothing. He throws her on a donkey and rides away. Then, in one of the most horrifying acts in the Hebrew Bible, he dismembers her body and sends the pieces across Israel as a public call to arms. This story should disturb us, but it should also direct us because it shares near-identical structure and language with Genesis 19, the infamous story of Sodom. In both, strangers enter a town. A host receives them. A violent male mob surrounds the house. The crowd demands to know the male guest. The host offers women instead. Violence follows. What's different is that in Judges, the mob accepts the woman, and in Genesis, they refuse the daughters. The common thread is not sexual orientation, it's power, dominance, and dehumanization. This is crucial, because for centuries, Genesis 19 has been wielded as a proof text against homosexuality. But when laid beside Judges 19, that interpretation collapses. The parallel story isn't about same-sex desire. It's about gang rape as an act of humiliation and violence. It's about what Phyllis Tribal calls texts of terror. As biblical theologian Pete Enns reminds us, good exegesis listens to what the text actually says, not what we wish it said. Reading Genesis 19 through a lens of sexuality alone is not exegesis, it's eisegesis, importing our assumptions into the Bible rather than drawing meaning out. Likewise, John Walton, a scholar of the ancient Near East, reminds us that hospitality was sacred in Israelite culture. Violating a guest, especially one under your roof, was an offense not only against human dignity but against God. Ezekiel 16:49-50 confirms this. "This was the sin of your sister Sodom," God says, "pride, gluttony, indifference to the poor, and abominations." The Hebrew word for abomination, tu'eva, is used across Scripture to describe idolatry, violence, and injustice, not necessarily same-sex behavior. But what about the cultural insight? Why are women today saying they'd rather choose a literal bear? Because for too many, the bear is safer. Unlike a man, the bear doesn't pretend to love, doesn't pretend to protect. It doesn't say, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." It doesn't justify violence with theology. It doesn't call itself righteous. In both Genesis and Judges, the women are offered up by their fathers, their partners, their supposed protectors. They are thrown to the mob, while the men behind closed doors call it hospitality or necessity. When today's women say, "I'd choose the bear," they're echoing generations of biblical women who were handed over and never heard again. This isn't about bears. It's about broken trust. And if the church refuses to see that, if it keeps misreading these stories to condemn marginalized people while ignoring the cries of the truly vulnerable, then it is repeating the sin of Gebeah, of Sodom, of the Levite. And judgment begins in the house of God. There is more to say. In Part 2, we will explore Genesis 19 again, through the lens of angelic attraction and strange flesh, as referenced in Jude 1:7. We'll see how ancient interpreters often understood Sodom's sin as reaching across the heavenly boundary, similar to Genesis 6. Let us grieve with the concubine. Let us listen to the women choosing the bear. and let the church learn what justice requires. If this episode opened your eyes or stirred your heart, please share it. Leave a comment. Join the conversation. You can find us on Medium, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. This is Echoes of the Temple. Until next time, walk gently, love fiercely, listen deeply.